Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gotham Chess Slow Run. In this series, I am playing on an authorized account on chess.com where I started at 400 ELO, playing rapid games and explaining the thought process of an aspiring chess player to all of you. I'm not trying to win as fast as possible, as you might imagine. This is episode number 5 on this channel. I have uploaded one episode on my second channel. I will put it in the top line of the description. Soon there will be a second episode on that channel. You can go keep an eye on it. I believe we are 14-0. In this episode, I'm playing late at night in the dark. You can tell me how you like the mysterious vibes. And our rating is 530-something. So without further ado, here we go. Soon we will start changing profile pictures as well. 10-minute game. Booting up. And I have the white pieces. And I will start with the move onto e4. I have played a few things. I've been playing a couple of Londons here and there. Let me turn on the piece noises. I think it's set to headphones. Now it's set to... Okay, my opponent hasn't made a move. But maybe we will just win on the first move. But I would like to play a King's Pawn game and take you through some of those openings. Looks like the game is going to be aborted. I think that's what's going to happen. Oh, they might be back. They've regained connection, is what I'm seeing on my screen. But never mind. The game was, in fact, aborted. Okay, I'm going to play another game. Okay, now I have the black pieces. That's rather unfortunate. G4! Ho, ho, ho! All right, I guess this episode is going to be called How to Deal with Stupid Openings. Take the center. I really don't care which way you take the center. This is a good way to take the center. If they play a ridiculous first pawn push, like on the edge of the board, play principal chess. Play in the center. We have our eye open over here, but 2 pawns in the center is always the best way to go. Now, a lot of people already would be acknowledging these pawns. They would be trying to stop them. Now, your king is over here, right? You are on this side, and they could advance. But remember, if you follow good principles, there's nothing they can do to you. The one thing is, you can't move your knight here. So let's move the other knight before we start doing anything more complicated. And we are keeping an eye over here, okay? One of the ways that you can attack the integrity of this pawn structure is just quite literally with your rook pawn. You can just immediately go at it, right? Now, with this most recent move that they've played, their bishop eyes our center pawn. I would like to finish up the development of my pieces, and I would like to castle my king. However, given that they have already come over here, I'm going to castle this way. I'm going to develop my bishop, support my center. I'm going to develop my queen forward. This knight sees this pawn and my knight sees the pawn. And we're now going to try to castle. However, this move literally loses the game on the spot. So this is how to deal with dumb openings. We made a little queen and bishop battery, and that's simply a free piece. It's clear that our opponent does not play chess with opening principles. Our opponent is a freestyler. And more often than not, freestyling will get you severely punished if the opposing side plays good principled chess and takes advantage of their opportunities. The craziness continues, by the way. There is no center being taken whatsoever. Now, a little life lesson. More often than not, in a good chess position, multiple choices are good. If you said castling, that would be correct. If you said bishop here, trying to put some pressure, that would be correct. If you attack this pawn, that would be correct. If you develop a bishop, that would be correct. If you develop a knight, that would be correct. If you want to play a5 and stop the advancement, that would be correct. To me, this is the cleanest move. It attacks the rook and threatens the knight. Not really threatens the knight, but you get my point. We just won a bishop, and they didn't want to lose the rook. So why not just trade? That move is a little bit more forcing than putting the bishop on this square. Now we're going to take the knight. And on the next move, we are going to castle. And maybe not only will we learn to deal with a dumb opening, we will learn how to deal with kind of an attack on our king. At this point, the best move is to immediately jump in here, attacking the queen and the 2 pawns. But we're going to play good principled chess. We're going to finish developing our pieces. We're going to defend against threats. I think my opponent's going to play a5 and a6. They are obviously pretty decent at attacking. Now, here you can stop the advance to a6 by playing a6 yourself. You can generally push one of these flank pawns, stopping your opponent's flank pawn expansion, as I have already said. But just to show you that this is not scary. Like, in chess, I would greatly go to lengths to avoid summarizing things with words. Don't summarize things with words. Oh, that's scary. Oh, the queen is getting in. Analyze with something concrete in mind, okay? Now, I see a queen, I see a king. The move c3, I think I know what it does. I think I get it. But let's finish up our development. This is a great move. That was the idea indeed. Our opponent is clearly pretty strong at pawn play. Now, our bishop is hanging. This is defended. The natural move is to go bishop d6. Something just got in my eyeball. Oh my gosh, that is so annoying. Oh my gosh, that is so annoying. It's like when your eyelash gets into your eye and just scratches your eyeball. Goodness me, I have two opponents in this game. Now b5 is probably going to happen. a6. Okay. Now, the best thing to do when your opponent is throwing pawns at you to try to get you to take them and open up your position is to make a blockade. Push forward. Now they're stuck. They're going to go b5, and we're, you know, there's a little nugget of wisdom I like to give. Going backwards in chess 9 times, 8 times out of 10 is probably bad. It just is. There's probably a better move to go forward. By the way, you're going to see that even here. But in this position, we are completely safe. White has absolutely nothing left for us. Nothing. I'm looking at the queen over there. I'm looking at the king. Yeah, there's nothing here. Can I take this? No, it's protected. Should I trade it off because it's annoying? Maybe, but I see a queen and a king. Hey, let's open the middle. Let's open the middle of the board because I see a rook and I see a queen and I see a king. And you know how cruel chess is? My opponent is going to take this queen. Look at it. They have mate. It's so crazy how quickly you can lose in a chess game. But with a rook and a king like this, this is an X-ray or a pin, and my opponent will lose the queen. Because when you violate principles, tactical opportunities present themselves. Queen b7, folks, is literally mate on the board, but the queen is unable to play it, and now we are totally winning. Our knight is hanging. By the way, we can move it or we can re-pin. Don't forget, you have the same tactical idea a couple of times. I'm heading for knight to f3. Does my opponent spot it? They might go rook here, stopping that, and blunder the rook in one move. That would be pretty normal, actually. I'm also threatening to take the pawn, and I don't know what that does. I'm going to check. And then I have queen takes pawn whenever I need it, even now. This is a triple fork, and this rook is still hanging. And this just shows you, when you break the principles, there we go. That was a nice game for us. Okay, we are now 15-0. In this slow run, I have taught you how to deal with ridiculous openings and hopefully shown you that if you just stick to good principles and use a clean thought process of where you're going to castle and how you're going to develop, good things are going to happen. This was actually not so terrible. If we turn on the analysis, it is better for black, but not considerably. It's only minus 1.2. And if white then played in the center, white would have actually been all right. This move is horrendous. Right? I mean, it's just obviously very bad. And my opponent was just totally losing. Now, here, as I said, the best move is just to jump in with the knight. Because you attack the queen, the pawn, and the pawn. And if we were to do this, and the queen went back, I would try to bring my queen and just go for this and this. And again, you should be looking for the kill. You should have like a little, alarm in your head. Like, my opponent has played horrendously. This is completely not how chess is supposed to work. At the same time, very early on, the best move, very likely for black after taking the center, is just to attack the pawn structure. Because you can always get your rook out and attack, you can get your knight out and then jump it into the middle. Like, you shouldn't be scared of this, you should be going, all right, I can't lose to this, so how do I take advantage? And I decided that I was going to castle queenside. And that's all right, you can castle queenside. If the opponent gives you the entire center, it makes your play a lot easier. All right, a lot easier. And then my opponent, obviously, they just didn't play great. But moves like pawn to c3, add this little thing in your head. How pawns worked is they work together. They support each other. And so in this position, the best move obviously was knight d4. In this position, yeah, I brought my rook. And then in this position, the best move actually is to take the pawn. Because this is so vicious. These moves are so brutal that white just can't defend. I mean, you just absolutely swarm. And probably the most instructive moment of the game was right here, as with the rook and all of this opposite. I played e4, which was a little bit risky. Definitely preparing e4 by moving the knight here and then e4 is better. But I just kind of wanted to show you how you can really save a position out of nowhere. Queen b7 is quite literally checkmate. And when a queen appears on a square like this, I would like all of you, if you cannot do this mentally, to at least begin to do it physically first, manually. Draw an arrow with this queen. Draw an arrow with this queen. See what the queen can control. Okay? That was a nice win. We have 15. That's how you deal with silly openings. Let's keep going. I wanted to play e4 in one game. Now I'm playing e4. We're moving up the leaderboard. I can now maybe show you how to play the Vienna. This is one of my favorite openings. It's the most popular course that I have ever made. It's the most popular course that I've ever sold. It's the most popular course that I've ever given free samples of. Hundreds of thousands of people have learned how to play the Vienna from me. And the idea of the Vienna is inherently the Vienna Gambit. The idea is that, and after this, you can go look up my Vienna videos. You can check out Vienna on Chessly. The idea is that after knight f6, you play pawn to f4. When the bishop comes out like this, we develop this bishop first, and we oftentimes will see what black is doing. Okay? Black plays queen g5. Wow. Super aggressive. That is a counterattack immediately on us. Look at that move. So I'm seeing that this is hanging. I can defend it by pushing it up one square. That looks pretty natural. I can move my king or my bishop. Both look bad. And I can play queen f3. Now, queen f3 defends the pawn and counterattacks the pawn on f7 with my bishop in the form of, you know, Scholar's Mate, in the spirit of Scholar's Mate. So let's play this move and see what happens. It's not the best move. But we are defending the pawn on g2, and we are threatening queen takes f7 check. Also, when a queen is hanging out on the board like this, and when your queen goes to hang out on the board somewhere, you have to look at the other pieces. I see a beautiful opportunity right here. That would be really nice for us. It would be really nice. What if we get away with it right now? First of all, they've allowed queen takes f7. But sometimes in chess, you have something nice, and you can look for something better. Look at this move. This is how you punish early queen stuff. You use the queen to your advantage, provided that it cannot attack you. My opponent has played knight takes d4, because they thought, well, first of all, they might have not even seen the queen as hanging. But they saw that they were attacking my queen. Now here I can play bishop takes queen, knight takes queen, knight takes knight. That's a good trait for me. And again, if you played that quickly, I wouldn't blame you. But I have something even better. If I moved my queen and the queen stayed hanging, wouldn't that be nice? It would. This is going to be like a 9-move win. Because you should not bring your queen out. Shouldn't bring your queen out. Now you're going to say, Levy, you brought your queen out. Yeah, because my opponent didn't take advantage of it the right way. That's why you are watching this. And we're going to be learning from it. I'm going to add 16. And then we're going to analyze this game and talk a little bit more about why we got to do or not do certain things. Okay? By the way, this looks like checkmate. It's not. The bishop would take, but it's good that you're picking up on that. Maybe you didn't. Now we take a queen with check, and the game is simply over. If the bishop goes back to block, we have queen f8 mate on that move. We can also take the pawn. We can also take the rook. We can also take the knight. But I prefer the most vicious and brutal counterattack, an 8-move checkmate. Now, this was probably the most ruthless that I was during the slow run. Generally, I do not want to play games like this. I would prefer that we learn the way a 500 rated player is supposed to learn. But let this serve as a very, very good deterrent to you bringing out your queen and attacking people early. And some of you, like I said, are going to say, Levy, didn't you do that exact same thing? Not quite. Not quite. So here's the funny thing about this position. And first things first, the Vienna. The Vienna is fantastic. Against knight to f6, I really like to play pawn to f4. It's a very tricky line. It is a little bit aggressive. It is a little bit weakening. It weakens the king a bit. And sometimes you can suffer. But it's one of the most effective openings to climb the rating ladder. And if you learn it correctly on Chessly, which is my platform, you will win a ton of games. So I will put a link in the description if you would like to check it out. You can create an account for free. But you can also get a bunch of free content. I've made many videos about the Vienna. The other idea of the Vienna is to play bishop c4 and then slowly prepare this move pawn to f4. And that is what I did here. Now, my opponent should play knight to f6. The best move against bishop c5 is to go here, followed by pawn to d4. But the best move against this is actually the immediate d4. This is how bad it is to bring your queen out this early in the game. And by the way, it's bad to bring your queen out like this as well. Because you're just attacking a mate. I would just defend. You would go here. I would just develop pieces. And before you know it, I mean, your queen would end up being a piñata. I would use your queen as a piñata. When you bring your queen out, watch out for the enemy bishops. Watch out for the enemy bishops a long distance away. The best move is d4, losing this pawn, queen h5. Look at this insane counterattack on this with my bishop supported and this and this. If queen h1, I have check, king here, bishop g5 check, knight to e7, long castle. And all of a sudden I have developed every single piece. Both bishops, my knight, my queen, my rook. Okay, this has not developed, but you get my point. Point is, you can't hunt a good structure, even if you win material, as long as the person followed good principles. Against this move, my opponent should have played the very natural move, queen back to g6. Getting out of the way of the bishop, which they now learned about, or maybe they will after watching this, and they also protect the f7 square. Now I'm in trouble, because now I'm out of good developing moves. Like, if I go pawn to d3, guess who's coming? The knight. I go knight to e2, stopping that. Okay, black is going to develop. Now, he's going to hit me with this move. So I play pawn to h3. Now my opponent quickly develops all their pieces. They develop, they castle, I have nothing. My queen doesn't have any targets. The queen cannot hunt on its own on a full board. I repeat, the queen cannot hunt on its own on a full board. It can't. It's not a good idea to bring it out. You will beat a few people, like I did in this game. But more often than not, you're going to lose your queen. Now, how do you develop the skill of, wait a minute, take, that simply works. Experience. You should play slow games. 15-minute games, 10-minute maybe, 30-minute games. That is how you think on moves like this. Most people here would see bishop takes, knight takes, and then this. And as far as I'm concerned at 500, that is perfect. Perfect. Here, I would then want you to castle, or I would want you to immediately go hunting for more. Both of those things are good, and both of those things mean that you are in good shape. But this was an example of punishing early queen attacks and looking for a better move. Not just searching for one variation, which worked, and then calling it a day. Just adding a little bit more to the mental toolbox of the slow run, okay? But yeah, if my opponents bring out their queen against me, I'm going to be absolutely merciless. Okay, we have white again. Let's play e4. Let's go for another Vienna. Let's see if... Okay, we're going to go for another Vienna. Knight to c3. Last time we had bishop to c5. Okay, pawn to d6. We're going to prepare the move pawn to f4. First, we're going to develop our bishop. Then we're going to play d3. And then we're going to play f4, the Vienna. Okay. Okay. Here we go. What is my opponent going to do? They should develop one of the knights. That's not a good move. Pawn to d3, pawn to f4. I'm not afraid of b5. You should not be afraid of these random side pawn attacks. We just come back with the bishop. We've already learned if they go after us, we're just going to take this stuff. Like, the chess is not cut out in a way where our bishop is ever going to get trapped this early. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. If you let it happen, then it's possible. But it's just not possible. Sticking to protocol. Not going backwards. Pawn to c6. Don't know what that does. Sticking to my opening. Knight to f3 is next. I actually think this defends this to go a5, a4. But this is not how chess works. Okay. We've now developed 3-0. 4 is coming. Castling is coming. Queen up. Let's see what happens. I'm expecting this. By the way, it's... Okay. Knight to f3. So it's 4-1. 4-1 in terms of developed pieces. Already, I'm looking at the soft spot near the king. f7, f2. Talked about this a lot already in the wins. Okay, they pin us. This is better. This is better. Now, some of you might be thinking this, h3. Don't hate it. In fact, it's actually sometimes nice protocol when they pin you. When they pin your knight to your queen, just ask. Because sometimes they take. Sometimes they go here. Least experienced players just take. Okay, my opponent didn't take. Now, I wouldn't recommend chasing. Chasing the bishop away might feel good. I used to play that all the time when I was a child, but you're going to castle this way probably. Yeah, could you castle this way? Yeah, for sure. But let's, like every game we're trying to do the same stuff, provided that we're not blundering any pieces. So now you might feel your king is a little bit airy here, but he's not. Speaking of which, right on the dot, this is a check. So what? Move the king somewhere to the side of the board. I don't care where you move it. Don't block in a way that pins yourself. Not necessary. Pushing a pawn in the center, it weakens this pawn, but it's also a good move. Let's just go king h1. Okay? I don't see the big deal. I don't see the big deal. Now, king in the middle, we know king in the middle, opening up the position is probably good. Okay, c5. Does that move have a threat? No. Okay, but that's not scary. We just move the knight. King is in the middle. What have we learned? We got to break open the middle of the board. Can we make a preparatory move like queen here or here? Yes. Should we open the middle of the board? Probably. e5. King is in the middle. Our king is gone. We have better development. Pawn break in the center. Just don't hang your queen. Take with the bishop. Don't hang your queen. Take with the bishop. Black needs to castle. They need to castle. They didn't castle. So now, our knight is hanging. We can put the knight in the middle, trade, and then we would be attacking their rook. We can go here, attacking their queen. How do you know which move is the best move? We can go here, take. You don't. Pick one. Pick one. I'm serious. You don't know which move is best. You're 500. You don't know anything. The point is, in a rapid game, you just gotta make a logical decision. Okay, we went here, and now the rook is hanging. Good. The king is still in the middle. King is still in the middle. We got to be thinking about this. Now, here's what I'm seeing in my head right now. I'm still seeing this pin. I'm seeing this queen and these pawns. They're kind of, they're kind of standing around. But the queen also protects all of these squares. So the queen is seeing that whole side. I still see a king here. And man, I would just absolutely love this. Some of you are probably thinking, hey, can't I attack the king with the queen? It's better to start the attack with a rook. I recommend starting an attack with a rook. It's worth less than the queen. Bring in the queen later. Black has this incredible defensive move, rook to e7. Will they spot that? I don't even think my move was the best move, by the way. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. I had some better ways to play. But they have to see my idea. That's crazy. Now you have committed to a life of putting the king in the middle of the board. Now all of my alarm bells are going off. Do I have a check? No. Whew, what do I do here? Okay, well, maybe it's time to bring my queen into the game. Can I take anything? Can I take that? That's not really anything good. It's time to bring the queen into the game. I'm going to bring my queen 1, 2, and maybe try to get like this. Bishop d6. Okay. So I can take the bishop. Can it take me, or do I have good protection? It looks like I have protection. Can I take the bishop? Maybe, but you don't have to take. So then maybe we continue with our plan. By the way, we can take this pawn. That is a free rook. Hey, free rook, free pawn. I'm going to take the free pawn. Not the best move, probably. Not the best move. But because why? Because the rook is going to come here. Yeah, now we just gave him an active rook. But that's why we're here to learn. Okay? Bishop back to f6. We won a pawn. They blundered a pawn, but the drawback is now look at this insanely active rook staring at the pawn near our king. Okay, they took. We can take with a pawn. That's what a lot of beginners would do. We can also take with the bishop back. Now, a lot of you might play this move and really open things up, but this is the best move. Taking with the bishop, in all likelihood, right? Now, there's a nasty move bishop here. Opening up an attack on our rook and hanging this bishop, potentially. Very, very... And they spot it. Look at that. Look at that move. Amazing stuff by my opponent. Now, my rook can be passive, but I do see a check, and that would be defended by my bishop. So I'm going to play that move because it looks really strong. It looks really, really good to play that move. Really like a strong move. Forcing the king to go somewhere. Now, going forward would be bananas, but maybe that's what they're going to do. And then maybe we trade the rook. Maybe that's how we play. King back. Do I have a check? Can I play bishop here? Potentially. Yes, I can potentially play that move. But we're going to analyze all of this after. For now, is this a fair trade? It looks like a fair trade. We take the rook. Okay. I would love to go rook here, but then they would take. What if I bring my queen? Let's say here. Look at this aggressive move. I'm threatening to take this pawn and then maybe take the rook. But there is rook here. I got to be careful. I got to be careful. It's going to be a fork. But then maybe I can take or maybe I can... Look, I got to check. This is my way. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my bishop. My queen and my bishop. Like, do I have a way to defend it? Doesn't look like it. But I can take the pawn or give a check. And I think the only way to not lose the bishop is to give a check. That's the only way to not lose a bishop, right? So the king is in check now, and then maybe on the next move I save my bishop. How am I going to do that? King's going to go. Okay, it goes there. I can keep giving checks. Maybe I can move my bishop here. No, because then this bishop would take it. Maybe I can move my bishop down to the last rank of the board. Okay. That's possible. Should we do it? If you're 500 and it's a safe move, you can try it. You have my blessing. Might as well, right? So where can the king go? Can it go here? No. Can it go here? Same problem. Can it go here? No. Can it go here? It's almost mate. So now what? Anywhere we move the bishop now, it would be a check on the king from our queen. Oh, that's kind of interesting. So what about... Oh, what about here? How's that? How's this for a crazy game, huh? Look at that. How's this? How's that for a logical series of moves? Now the king goes here. Next move, we're taking the queen. The sweet spot for getting a really strong win is around... I would say it's around like 25 to 30 moves. 25 to 30 moves. And that's kind of the sweet spot. I mean, sometimes you're getting a winning position in like 10 or something like that. That was a very interesting game. And what I will say for this game is that, and this is, again, nuggets of wisdom, chess is full of specific and general knowledge. That means that general knowledge is general wisdom, like develop in the center of the board and castle your king. This is general knowledge. Specific knowledge, specific situations are concrete. The position that you have now, or in any situation, cannot be played on fundamentals. You have to find a solution now using the general knowledge. It's going to be kind of difficult to figure it out otherwise. For example, here, general knowledge is don't put a piece in front of a king. Don't pin yourself unnecessarily. Move the king to safety. Specifically, how on earth do you choose between these two moves? Tough to say. Pick one. Now, king in the middle. What's the best move in this position? The computer doesn't agree with what I played. It thinks that it's plus 3.5, and after my move, it's only plus 2.5. So did I make a mistake? No. I just played in a way that was relatively logical. Now, my opponent went here. This is not respecting the principles. It now goes from plus 1.8, 1.9 to plus 5 because I just jump into the position. Could I have played here, here, here? By the way, you know what the best move is in the position? Queen e1 or bishop takes. Immediately going for this position. The computer wants to take the knight and then put the knight here. But we followed relatively good principles. Now, I talked here that instead of rook e1, here's a nice way to keep this king in the center forever. Take the knight, give this check. And then in this position, if I asked you the question, how do you activate white's queen? Get the queen to the other side of the board. Many of you watching would say queen e1 or queen e2 and try to go there. And I would say yes, but wrong. d4. This is your move. This is the move I want you all to start coming up with more and more. Queen e1 is very nice as well, threatening queen e8 and even queen h4 check. But I want you to understand how all your pieces are working together. I went rook e1 to create an attack. And once I saw the king was in the middle, again, the best move is, folks, the best move, king in the middle, open the middle. Of course, I didn't play that move because I can't always play the top move of the computer. But just like earlier in the game, I made a pawn break with my e-pawn. When the king went to the d file, I'm seeing the two opposite pieces, and I'm like, okay, we gotta open the position up with a move pawn to d4. It's absolutely required. We have to go d4. But okay, I played queen d2. I said, let me get my queen into the game. Opponent went here, and now definitely, without a doubt, this is a specific versus general situation. There are no more principles that can guide you here. How do you decide as a beginner whether you take this bishop, whether you take this pawn, whether you leave this bishop, whether you move your queen? In general, if you're making a move that's not a blunder, if you're just not blundering anything, in the long run, you will gain rating. If you are blunder prone, you will not gain rating. It's going to be a lot harder. So here, the best move for white was to just finish the plan. Get the biggest and most powerful attacking piece into the game. However, you might say that's a free pawn and it attacks a rook. How can it possibly be a bad move? You lose momentum, and the repercussions of taking this pawn are now you have to run out of the forest with a gigantic bear chasing you. So you get a berry, but there's a risk. And suddenly, there is this. Your opponent goes here, you might blunder this move, suddenly the rook has arrived, suddenly you're panicking. You're still winning, but you are panicking. You end up playing a move like queen h2 to defend yourself. Everything is going wrong. You go queen h8, and now you've lost your bishop, and now you're losing. Very natural series of events for beginners. It's important to look around at all your pieces, right? It's important to look around at all your pieces. And in this position, probably the hardest thing to spot is that this move didn't just attack the rook. It also opened up the queen attack on the bishop. That piece coordination exercise, bishop to g3, will raise your game by hundreds of points. Then this move here, playing simple chess, trading off the rook. And at this point, many of you would have gone with the bishop. That would have been totally fine. Many of you would have brought the queen or maybe bringing the rook. As long as you're bringing something to the party, I don't care. Don't come empty-handed. I played queen h6 with the attack on h7. It's very normal and logical for people to blunder this as a counter-attacking move. And what's funny is that in this position, I can still take this pawn because when the rook takes the bishop, I have this check attacking both the king and the rook. I saw that in a distance. How do you see something like this in a distance? Pattern recognition. I saw that when my queen goes to h6, there is a counter-attacking move. However, if that counter-attacking move, like look, I go here attacking this. If the rook comes to counter me, the back rank is exposed. I see a bare king. So right away I'm thinking I can zip into that square because the rook is no longer on the 8th rank. However, I can also take the free pawn and follow through with this idea because that rook on the new f6 square is unprotected, and the king and the rook can both be hit from the h8 square on c8 and f6. Coming up with that little visualization takes time. You're not going to be born with it. I have played hundreds of thousands of games, and I also learned this game when I was 6 years old. You might have learned this game as an adult, and this is out of reach. Your brain is full of enough stuff. All the roads you've memorized, all the pictures, memories, relatives, both alive and dead. Like, seriously, stuff like this can be out of reach, and that's okay. You just have to improve it a little bit over time. A little bit. That's just the reality. Don't look at this and go, how am I ever going to get this good? Don't worry about it. I've wasted 20-something years on this, right? But the point is to spot these little patterns. And when I saw that I can zip in, for the record, I didn't even realize I had checkmate in one in this position. I saw queen d8. I did. But it didn't register that it was mate. And I'm 2,900 in blitz. 2,800, 2,900. I actually, like, I saw this move, and I was going to talk about it later, saying how, you know, I saw my bishop was hanging, and then I moved the bishop, and people forget they don't have to move the piece that's hanging, right? They can just defend it, or, you know, give a check. But I saw queen d8 in my mind, but I didn't realize it was mate. I thought the king just moved somewhere. And I always try to educate with a clear train of thought and save other moves for the analysis. And I was going to show how queen d8 is a move that attacks the king and defends the bishop. It also happens to be checkmate, which I didn't even... The other idea I was going to do is go queen takes pawn. Just showing how it's an attack and it defends the bishop. And black's best move here is something like blocking with the knight. Now the bishop is under attack, so you should move it somewhere. And the game would go on. In the game we went here, black played king c8. And now actually, again... we have a moment where we are totally winning, but this time the king would run this way. And that's funny. I find it quite humorous. The winning idea here is bringing the bishop all the way on this diagonal and then checking, and then the king would be mated like this. This is very tough to spot. All these empty squares and seeing how your pieces are fighting for them. But this is the way I encourage you in your head to visualize it, like little yellow and red spots, you know, like that. Where you kind of like in your mind draw these little arrows controlling all the squares, and the king ends up having nowhere to go. That was fun, you know. And the Vienna, we just got to show kind of the power of it. Setting up like this, developing our pieces, trying to castle with the open F file, which we ended up actually using, right? We used the open lines to our opponent's king. And instead of taking on G7, probably what we should have done is just brought in more force. King in the middle is always susceptible to hanging pieces. Look, folks, hanging pieces. Later in the game, what did we see? A tactical situation of hanging pieces. Hanging piece, king, check on h8. Or check, win the bishop. Or queen g7, which attacks the bishop and the rook. In this particular case, they would move. So, a little bit of a tactical lesson, a little bit of Vienna here for you. It's about 40 minutes now. I like to keep these to around 3 games per episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the analysis. Please continue with the feedback. I will add captured pieces in the next recording. That's all I have for you today. Get out of here.